Alrighty, then let's just do it. So in our introductory lesson, we learned a little bit about a horizon line, and we put a vanishing point right in the center. We just drew boxes, which is kind of academic, right? Okay, but we learned to draw our guidelines very lightly, and then to hand draw our things so that it wasn't too mechanical looking. So with this next lesson, what I'd like you to do is to go ahead and make an actual drawing. Now there's a couple of things about this, and I'll go through them in a little bit. But one of the first things that we notice is that this has what is called atmospheric perspective. In other words, it gets a little bit darker towards the top, a little bit darker towards the bottom, and gets lighter as it goes away, right, towards that horizon line. And so here, let me show you a couple pictures. So like you can see this one of the ocean, how that's very natural, how it starts off light in the center and it goes darker towards the top, darker towards the bottom. Here's another one that shows a set of hills in the sky coming down. This is atmospheric perspective. Anyways, it's an old landscaping trick, and it really helps to give your drawings a lot of depth. You might even exaggerate it a little bit in your drawings because it really works well. Anyways, so with this one here, we're going to see that our vanishing point is not necessarily directly in the center, but it is still along our horizon line. Another thing that we're going to be looking for with this one is that we've got these windows here that are on the sides, right? And they also go back, every line goes back to the vanishing point. Alrighty. So that's just such an important thing. I want to kind of point that out a little bit. So, oftentimes when the kids would draw just a cube, let's say they did a good enough job of drawing that cube. Let's say they turned that cube into a house. Put a little wedge on top there, and they'd make a little door, right? Maybe a little window. And the front is always good. It's always just fine. But then the side, instead of doing it like this, where all lines would be parallel, instead of that, what they often will do is some version of this. Here, or here, or something goofy like that, right? And so with the perspective, it could be the same thing where they're drawing it, and instead of everything, going back to the vanishing point, right? Something like that. They'll do that just fine, just the way they made sort of their cube originally just fine. And they'll just be just fine with putting something on that side. But then instead of running the windows and the doors and whatever else back to the vanishing point, they'll do that same crazy thing, right? Where, they'll run a door that is, totally goofy, a window that is ridiculously small and not lined up with anything, or, whatever, just craziness, right? So just with this lesson here, one of the big takeaways is that everything goes back to the vanishing point. Okay, good enough. So let's run through it a little bit, and I won't show you the whole process of the whole drawing because that would just be ridiculous, but I'll show you some of it, some of the main points. So here's main point number 1. Do not be a slave to perspective, okay? Don't start your drawings off with a ruler. That is a bad place to start. What you want to do is you want to start your drawings with a concept. And later on in the art class, we're going to, start learning more about how you can develop a concept, but that's a lesson for another time. For right now, just know that I'm going to sort of be drawing it and then correcting it with the perspective. Okay, so let's say here's my horizon, okay, and I'm going to put it off to the side. And I put it off to the side, very much because I wanted to have room for doing all this kind of stuff, right? Okay. So I've got my vanishing point over here somewhere. Okay, move it over just a little bit. And then let's say, okay, I'm going to have the front of a building. Sure. And I'm freehanding that in, just drawing my little square front to a barn, drawing very lightly. Notice where I'm holding my pencil is way back here at the end of the pencil. Okay. I'm kind of just roughing things in, just freehanding it right back to that vanishing point, determining, how big my building is going to be, let's say, etc., etc. Maybe what else I'll do, like for instance, maybe if I was to put a little road right here, like I did in that first drawing that you saw. Okay, maybe there's yet another building that goes over here. This one's a little bit further away. Maybe we don't even see like the whole thing. Okay, and then this one's going to also run back to the vanishing point. And just right here, because these things are just lined up. Okay, and so that's my initial drawing. So now if I want to square things up or make things a little bit more right, now I'll do that. So for instance, I might use my ruler, okay, to square this up a little bit. And so here, once again, I'm still going to draw light though. Still going to draw light. And then here, etc., etc. Maybe things that are as easy as this front sort of square doesn't even need to be drawn any more precise than that. It was very light. Now here's one thing I'm going to do. Check this out. So if I want to have the peak of this roof be centered above the building, there's an easy way to do that. I could measure it and then just made a mark here at how wide it is, and fold my paper ruler, thus make a mark right there. Boom, I just found my center right there. But there's another way, an even cooler way, and that's this. And I say it's cooler because we can do this, as you'll see, in many different angles. If I draw an X, and this works in real life too, you could take a piece of plywood or any other sort of board or material that you're working with, and if you draw an X in the middle of it, right there, that's the center. I know that's the center. Okay. Now remember, I'm going to be making, oh, see, there's a proof. It lined right up with that. But anyways, remember that all my verticals, my up and down lines, they stay up and down. Okay, for now. Later we'll have 3-point perspective, and we'll get into that. But, that's a lesson for another day. Anyway, so I'm just going to draw up, and I say like, okay, that's where the peak of my roof is. And as you can see, it's a little bit over from where it was initially. That's okay. I'm correcting right now. So then another thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and make sure that my guidelines that are going all the way back are good. Now here's something. You know how I could draw from this corner all the way back to this vanishing point. But honestly, I don't need to. And then that's just one more thing I'm going to have to erase. I know where I want to put this back wall right here, so I'm just going to draw back to that. Okay, so that's good. Going to go up. And then I'm going to draw one right back here. Coming off this corner to the vanishing point. Oh, see, I didn't need to go all the way back like that. Anyways, and there we go. All right, this one up here, let's see. For the roof line, my initial drawing wasn't bad, but it could be more accurate. And I see where I want to just take the other end of that roof, and I'm just going to draw it right here. Now, this angle and this angle would be honestly a little bit different, and I can figure out exactly what this angle is, but I don't need to for right now. Because remember, with drawing, you only have to, it has to look right. It doesn't have to really be right. So if you just draw this parallel, the same way you did when you were drawing forms, it's going to look right. It's going to be close enough. Nobody's ever going to sit there and check yours out and see if it was right or not. Okay, I'll do the same thing with this one right over here. Well, I'm just going to sort of square that up a little bit. Make sure I'm looking good. Okay, going back to my vanishing point, and I'm not drawing lines all the way back to it. I don't need to. I know where it goes. Okay, cool. And then this right over here, I'm going to assume that since this isn't exactly the same angle, in the other one it was close enough, but in this one it's a little bit, there's just a sliver of roof showing. I got to determine, well, where is the peak? I'll put the peak just right here at the edge of the paper. Now remember, as I'm drawing this, you don't have to make a drawing exactly the same as mine. In fact, if you can make a drawing that has the same sort of parameters, doing the same thing, but is totally different than mine, oh, that's the best right there. Okay, so here's another thing. I'm going to put this door in here, right? And so what I can do is I can say like, okay, well, maybe I want that door to be in here. And I'm just going to arbitrarily say I want this door to be this wide, right here, on this side. So once again, with the paper ruler, I could go ahead and just mark it. See how I measured that? So now the door is going to be the same width right in the center. That's cool. And I could also maybe mark it up here at the top and at the top over here. And that way everything is just squared up and nice and whatever. Okay, and I'm just going to finish that off. Cool. Okay. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put those windows in on the side here. So the first thing I'm going to do is not get out the ruler, but just to sort of rough it in. Well, where exactly do I want those? So I'm just going to kind of rough those in here. See, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay. Well, let's check this out. Remember how I was saying that I could make that X to find the middle? Well, let's say that these windows would probably make the most sense if they were evenly distributed on the side of the building. I can find that really easy by doing the same thing, right? So if I take here and make an X, nice and light, from corner to corner, then I can find the middle of this wall in perspective. And I can see like, oh, my initial window was way off. So what I'll do, okay, so if I've got a window on this half and the window on this half, and I want them to be about evenly distributed, now I can do a more accurate version of that, making it thinner here and maybe a little bit thicker over here, as you might suspect. Once again, it does not have to be perfect. It just has to look right. Okay, and I think that's going to be a lot better. That was really helpful to put in that centerpiece. And so then I can take and I can draw that back. Once again, I don't have to draw a line all the way back, do I? Just to here, that's that edge. And then just to here, that's to that edge. And let's see. From the bottom, I'll go right to here. That's to that edge. And right to here. That's to that edge. Okay, cool. So I have my initial structure. And I don't know as I really need much of anything more to do with the ruler. Oh, well, maybe I'll do over this one. Let's do this one real quick. Okay. So let's say that I'm going to put a window right here on this one. Okay, so here's a big old window right here. Okay, and let's say I want an even row of windows down here. I want them to be level with the top and bottom of this window. Well, that's pretty easy. All I have to do is give myself a little guideline to the edge, right? So that's the same height of the window, just going from here over to here. And then I'm going to draw from here back to the vanishing point. And I don't have to go all the way back. I'll just go along the side of my building here. And voila, these windows now will be the same height. I could do the same thing as before, where I'm just going to draw an X here and here. That's found my center point. And now, when I put a window in, I can put one in on each side, and now those are going to be evenly spaced. Isn't that cool? Oh my gosh. Children, there is just so much more that you can do with perspective. We are only scratching the surface, even with this. Okay, anyways, so that's my basic drawing, right? So now what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and get rid of anything that I don't need, clean up all the lines. So if I had anything going back to the vanishing point, I'll just get rid of that right away. And you know, it's so important to draw lightly because not only does it help you erase the pencil lead out of there, or graphite, but also if you draw dark, you're going to crease the paper. It's going to make a physical crease in that paper, and it doesn't matter how much you erase, it'll still be there. Okay, well, I'll pause this as I go ahead and erase all these lines.